Welcome to Uncommon DevOps Wisdom by Uncommon Sense Consulting. Have you ever pondered how empathy relates to code? An intriguing question, isn't it? Many may argue that coding is a logical, mathematical process, devoid of any emotional component. However, I'd like to introduce you to a different perspective, the idea of empathy in code. Empathy, often seen as a soft skill, is underappreciated in the world of programming. But it's an indispensable aspect when creating user-friendly software. It's about putting yourself in the user's shoes, understanding their needs, their challenges, and their expectations. But empathy in code isn't just about the user. It's also about your fellow programmers. It's about writing code that is not only efficient, but also readable and maintainable. It's about considering the person who will be working on your code in the future, making their task easier and less time-consuming. So, think about it. When you code, who are you truly coding for? Consider two pieces of code, both functional, but one is empathetic, the other is not. Let's start with the first piece of code. It does its job, yes, but it's like a tangled ball of yarn. The functions are convoluted, the variables are named haphazardly, and there's no clear structure. It's like trying to navigate a maze without a map. Now, imagine you're another developer, tasked with adding a new feature or fixing a bug. You'd have to spend a significant amount of time just trying to figure out what's going on. On the other hand, the second piece of code is a breath of fresh air. It's clean, well-organized, and easy to read. The variables are named sensibly, the functions are broken down into manageable pieces, and there's plenty of comments explaining what each part does. It's like a well-written novel, where each chapter leads naturally to the next. But the empathy in this code goes beyond just being easy to read. It also considers the needs of the user. Error messages are clear and helpful, not just a cryptic string of numbers. There's a logical flow to the user interface, making it easy for users to find what they need. And there's plenty of documentation, so if someone else needs to work on this code in the future, they won't be left in the dark. The impact of this empathy in code is enormous. It greatly reduces the time needed for maintenance and debugging, leading to increased productivity. It also improves the user experience, making the software more enjoyable to use. And perhaps most importantly, it fosters a culture of respect and collaboration as developers work together to create code that is not just functional, but also considerate of others' needs and experiences. One can clearly see how a little empathy can make a world of difference in the coding realm. Now you may ask, how can I cultivate empathy in my code? And that's a great question. The key to cultivating empathy in your code isn't a complex algorithm or a cutting-edge technology. It's more about a shift in mindset, a change in the way you approach coding. Firstly, let's recap what we've learned so far. Empathy in code isn't about the code itself. It's about the people who use it and the people who will maintain it. It's the ability to put ourselves in their shoes, to understand their needs and struggles. It's about writing code that is not only functional, but also easy to understand and maintain. Now let's talk about how to develop empathy in your code. Step 1. Focus on user experience. Whether you're building a mobile app, a web application, or a software system, always keep the end user in mind. Consider their needs, their limitations, their frustrations, and then write code that addresses these factors. Step 2. Write clear comments. Comments are like breadcrumbs in a forest. They guide other developers through the maze of your code. So, don't skimp on them. Explain what each piece of code does, why it's there, and how it contributes to the overall functionality of the software. Step 3. Consider the needs of other developers. Remember, your code is not an island. It's part of a bigger picture, a larger software ecosystem. And other developers need to be able to understand and work with your code. So, make it as clear and as organized as possible. Lastly, think about future maintenance. Code that is easy to understand today will be easier to maintain tomorrow. So always think ahead. Make your code flexible, adaptable, and ready for future changes. In conclusion, cultivating empathy in your code is about understanding and addressing the needs of users and other developers. It's about making your code as clear, organized, and maintainable as possible. Remember, coding is not just about solving problems, it's about helping people. So, code with empathy, because it truly matters.